21st regular meeting of the Medford City Council, May 24th, 2022 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Ferris.
Present.
Council Carviallo.
Present.
Council Collins. Council Knight.
Present.
Council Scarpelli. Present. Council Singh.
Present.
President Morrell.
Present, 7 present, 0 absent. The meeting is called to order. Please rise to salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. The records of the meeting of May 17th, 2022 were passed to Councilor Knight. Councilor Knight, how did you find them?
Madam President, I find the records in order and I move for their approval. Second.
On the motion of Councilor Knight, seconded by Vice President Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Reports of committees, 21-057, May 18th, 2022, Committee of the Whole report to follow. This was our meeting last week to discuss the draft ordinance regarding regulations around leaf blowers. There were a number of motions to get some additional language and options, as well as to invite landscapers, chambers of commerce to a future meeting. I know we've heard from some residents about this. This is very much still a work in progress. All feedback is welcome, and we're probably going to work on this together. Do I have on the motion of Councilor Knight, seconded by Vice President Bears, to adopt the committee report? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Motion passed. I only got one eye. I think I only heard one. So.
Like I said, aye.
I
Sure
know.
about that.
Sorry, I should have looked over there. Announcements, accolades, and remembrances. 22-358, offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council congratulate Building Commissioner Paul Moakey on his retirement and 38 years of service to the city of Medford.
Thank
Vice
you, ma'am.
President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. As all of us behind this rail know, Paul Moakey has been a public servant in this city for 38 years. He certainly has been in front of this council many times in my nearly 3 years on the council and helped us spearhead the zoning recodification, was incredibly helpful throughout that process, attending, hours and hours of meetings, working with our zoning consultant, making that all of that possible, as well as all of the constituent service and management work that he did on a day-to-day basis. His last day is this Thursday, and I was luckily able to catch a quick celebration and thank him for his service just yesterday. So just want to congratulate him and send that congratulations along through the clerk and on behalf of the council for his many years of service. And hopefully we will be able to find someone to fill his shoes quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Council Bears, for bringing this forward. This is a happy day for a great person, but a sad day for this community. Mr. Moakey, I don't think I've ever met somebody so well-versed in their position in this building in a long time. He is prepared, educated, calm, cool, collective, and even under the most strenuous circumstances, I've never seen the man in a negative light ever in my life. He was someone that you would call and hope that he would give you the answer that you wanted. But when you hung up the phone, you were confident. And even though you didn't get the answer that you needed or you were looking for, you felt confident because you were educated enough to answer our constituents with a lesson in anything that we needed in our community, dealing with a code enforcement issue or a building issue, or the simplest things to the most intriguing items. So it's going to be sad because we seldom work with many department heads, especially lately, that will call you back in a timely fashion, listen to your concerns, and find a solution for you, whether it's what you're looking for or not, within minutes. And to say that he wasn't one of the busiest department heads in this community for a long time would be an understatement. So I want to thank him for his service. I want to thank him for his commitment to the city, his ability to probably lead, I think, one of the best departments in the city. I think his whole staff is a true reflection of his personality and his educated background. I think he has made his staff multi-talented. I don't think we have one inspector downstairs, one officer downstairs that isn't well-versed in many different building topics. And I think it's because of his leadership. And when you talk to those people, not one ever have a bad thing to say, a negative word to say. And they're always working as a team, always supporting each other. And it's comical. If you look at that department, and if you can only clone that throughout the community and society, boy, we'd be a better place today. And a lot has to do with Paul Moakey. So, we're going to miss him. I hope that one of his staff will be the next to succeed him, because I think he has groomed them in his fashion. So, again, thank you, Council Bears, for bringing this forward. I'm sorry I missed the celebration, but publicly, I want to say thank you. And if we can ask him to come up, make a motion to have him come to our next meeting and present him with a citation of service and something that we could publicly thank him, I think would be important, and I think that'd be well deserved. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, again, Paul Moakey, one of the nicest guys in the building. Again, you call him, he calls you back. But, the sad part is we've got 38 years of institutional knowledge walking out the door. And how do you replace that? That's the real key. I mean, you can get other people that are smart and know their craft, but you don't get the institutional knowledge that Paul had. Yeah, and again, that's really the sad part about him leaving. But again, I'm happy that he's going to be retiring and less of a schedule and be a normal guy now. So again, I just want to congratulate him. But again, it's just that institutional knowledge that keeps walking out of the door in this building that doesn't get replaced. And he had a wealth of knowledge that can never be taught to someone else. So again, I want to thank him on his for all the service he's done for the community and his work to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Knight.
Madam President, thank you very much. Mr. Moakey is one of the best department heads I've had the pleasure of working with. And I've worked with department heads all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as representative for union employees in municipal setting. And my relationship with Mr. Moakey over the years has grown to a friendship. He's someone that I respect, someone that I admire, someone who, as Councilor Carviallo said, brings a wealth of knowledge to the table. When you think about 38 years, that's a pretty long time. When you look at the city, look at the community, you see what's happened over that 38 years. Anytime there was a shovel in the ground, Mr. Moakey was there to make sure that it was done the right way. That includes the new schools, Stations Landing. It includes Chevalier. It includes the science labs. It includes the Field of Dreams. It includes the turfing of Hormel. So when you think about the impact that he's had on this community over 38 years, that impact is going to last well into the future. These are things that have made our community great, and he's someone that had a hand in it. When you talk about his style as a department head and the way that he runs his department, I think it's safe to say that that is the only department in City Hall where every employee is cross-trained, where every inspector can be a code enforcement officer and every code enforcement officer can be an inspector. And when someone's out, they don't miss a beat. That's a testament to the vision that Mr. Moakey has and how this is supposed to work. I'd always said that the building department here in the city of Medford is a team, and they work very well together. And Mr. Moakey just happens to be the person that's driving the bus. And when we talk about institutional knowledge being lost, that's always a concern. But I think that Paul's done a great job cultivating talent in his office as well. So I look forward to seeing the next generation of leaders coming out of the building department here to work with us. But this is about Paul and all that he's done for this community. He's a great person. He's someone I've had the opportunity to speak with a number of times. I've had the opportunity to sit down with a number of times and enjoy his company and his conversation in a professional setting as well as in a personal private setting. He's someone that I will certainly miss, and I thank him for all that he's done for this community. And I second Councilor Scarpelli's motion to invite him down for a citation.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Any further discussion? If I could, Councilor Singh.
I'm one of the newer counselors here, so I haven't had the pleasure to work with Commissioner Moki as much as the rest of my colleagues have, but in the committee meetings that we have had with him, Commissioner Moki has always been a vital resource to us as a council and someone who's brought a wealth of knowledge and who has really helped us shape the work that we do here. And so I just wanted to congratulate Commissioner Moki on his retirement.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. And if I could, I mean, my fellow counselors have, said so much, and I think just hearing people speak at length about Commissioner Moki just is a testament to who he is and the work he does and how much he helps us all. I think one of my early wins as a counselor in my first term was a resident had reached out about their neighbor had, a large shipping container and a lot of open storage and something that was a violation of code. And it was an issue they've been battling for so long. And Mr. Moki was finally able to get it taken care of, getting it to the right person. And, the resident thanked me profusely, but it's not, a lot of times it's not us. It's the people who work at City Hall. It's people like Commissioner Moki who go the extra mile. They're so responsive and just really get it done for the residents of our community. And he's come to countless meetings, as Vice President Bear said, and you would never get a sense of, how he feels about an issue personally. He comes with his work hat on and he says, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And it's always been so welcome and I appreciate it so much. And he will be absolutely sorely missed. As was said, 30 years of institutional knowledge is really tough to top. And I think, he's working to the last minute. I had sent him a paper before I knew he was retiring, our tree ordinance, to see if we could get some feedback. And he said, sure, I'll get that to you right away when, he's retiring in 3 days. And I said, Paul, it's okay. We'll figure it out. So it's, he'll absolutely be missed. And I thank him for his many years of service to this community and to this body in particular as well. So on the motion of Vice President Bears as amended by Councilor Scarpelli, all those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. Motions, orders, and resolutions 20-573 offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council reconsider the vote on paper 20-573 for the third reading. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. In my everlasting persistence for consensus, I respectfully request that we vote again on the snow removal ordinance. And my fingers are crossed that we will reach that intended goal. Thank you.
Madam President, can I speak to the debate that Councilor Bears and I had?
Go ahead, Councilor
He's
Knight.
very persuasive.
So
Very.
20-573 is the snow and ice removal ordinance that came before us for third reading last meeting. This just updates, slight update to the language that was in the council a number of times. So Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll, unless anyone would like the ordinance read back. Okay, Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll. Who's the second?
Second.
Councilor Carviallo.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Council Carviallo. Yes. Council Collins.
Yes.
Council Knight.
No.
Council Scarpelli.
Yes.
Council Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The motion passes.
Madam. Yeah. No, move for reconsideration right now.
Be here all
And
night.
No, I'll take 6. 6 is good enough.
22-35. Very good. Okay, 22-359 offered by Councilor Knight. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council requests that the DPW purchase necessary equipment to grind sidewalks and stumps to assist in addressing the backlog of necessary sidewalk repairs. Councilor Knight.
Madam President, thank you very much. Last week, we sat here with our city engineer and our director of DPW, and they talked about a need for certain equipment to take certain functions in-house, that being the grinding of stumps and the shaving down of sidewalks that are in disrepair. Annually, this council normally appropriates anywhere between $1 million to $1.5 million for sidewalk repairs. We also talk every year about whether or not we could handle this in-house. Earlier this evening, we talked about our budget priorities, and one of our budget priorities would be increasing the staffing level at the DPW. And in partnership or concert with that, I think it would make sense for us to also increase the equipment that they have so they can get some of this work done that's necessary. As we said earlier in the day, the function of government is to provide services. And we need boots on the ground in order to do that. We also need equipment to do it. So this is a request that the administration price out what this piece of equipment would cost that the city engineer and the city Public Works Director was speaking of, and to present it to the council for either inclusion in the capital plan or for a supplemental appropriation request.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Any further discussion? On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Carviallo. All those in favor?
President requests a roll call.
Sure. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
No.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, the motion passes. The next paper is from myself. It's a little bit extensive. I can read them. Absolutely. So 22360, so on the motion of Counselor Knight to waive the reading for brief synopsis, seconded by Vice President Bears. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. So 22360. So what this paper is that goes just into the efforts of corporations like Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash to keep their employees classified as independent contractors. And as such, these employees do not get benefits or pay into things like Social Security. A lot of times they are not getting a living wage once, or even a minimum wage, once the hours and their shifts are calculated. These companies contend that that these folks are independent contractors and not employees, despite the fact that they are required to perform a set number of shifts. They are not, although they do have flexibility in scheduling, they are not allowed to refuse a certain number of rides, or they won't be able to be on the app anymore. So this is in response to House Bill 1234 that would continue to exempt these gig economy businesses from paying into Social Security and unemployment, which costs Massachusetts taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, and we can use these programs for everyone. And it would affirm our support in joining counselors across the greater Boston region, workers, consumers, community members, faith organizations, environmental and racial justice advocates, labor rights, civil rights, and union organizers to urge Massachusetts legislature to oppose House Bill 1234 and the proposed 2022 state ballot initiative with similar language. So this is just really something to affirm our support. I understand counselors, certain times don't like to vote on issues that go up to the state level in this way. But I would just argue that this is something that very much impacts our community. These are people who live in our community. These are workers that are, as I said, oftentimes not making a living wage. They're not making a minimum wage. And these are services that use our roads, our streets. And we talk about the congestion and the dangerousness that happens because of all these services. And they're essentially, they're allowed to do whatever they want. They say these people aren't employees. We're not going to give them benefits. We're not going to make sure they have a living wage. And they want to codify that. So this is just asking the council to join with other councils and leaders in the area to stand up and say that these workers deserve the same rights as all other employees, because that's what they are. Vice President Bears, Councilor Carviallo, Collins, go around. Right. Vice President Bears first.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for putting forward this resolution. Fundamentally, this is about the future of work in Medford and Massachusetts and in our country. And these big tech corporations have gotten out ahead of the law and out ahead of regulation. And now they're trying to solidify that position. In California, a very similar ballot question was passed by a very close margin. And the only reason it passed at all is because Lyft and Uber and DoorDash and these large companies spent tens to hundreds of millions of dollars on ad campaigns to confuse the voters, to confuse the issue. And they're doing the same thing here. If you ever see any of the ads, they say yes to independent drivers, yes to supporting drivers. And most of the time, the people that they have in those advertisements are the people that they're talking about. The people who drive occasionally, once in a while. But the fact of the matter is, over half of the rides on these services and half of the trips on these DoorDash, delivery type services are done by 9% of the workers. So the vast majority of this service is being provided by a small number of workers. And those folks, they want to be called employees. If right now, a lot of these folks split between multiple services. So even under the proposed benefits that have been written by their bosses, they're not going to qualify for health insurance, even though the bosses' ads say they will. They're not going to qualify for benefits that the bosses' ads say they will. And beyond that, I think it's pretty clear. You've got these multi-billion-dollar corporations. Lyft gave a $15 million donation to the ballot campaign to support this ballot question, the largest single donation in the history of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to a ballot campaign, and they're expected to give tens of millions more. There's a reason that these companies are spending tens of millions of dollars to put out ad campaigns to confuse people, and it's because at the back end, if these bills pass or this ballot question passes, they're going to save billions of dollars. And why are they going to save it? Because they're not going to be paying it to the people who are making them their profits. At the end of the day, this is a basic issue of workers' rights, worker justice. And I think the point is also well made that these services are all over our streets and all over our communities. And if they're not paying their workers well, and they're not paying federal income taxes, and, you know, they don't have a yard or a taxi, you know, they're not buying a taxi license or anything else, they're paying what, I can't even remember, a $1 fee or something like that. It's, I mean, ridiculous. So they're completely abusing our system, and they're trying to abuse it further with this obscene spending to functionally confuse people and get them to vote against the interests of their neighbors. So I think it's incredibly important that this council speaks up and says that that model of business has no place in a community like Medford and in a Commonwealth like Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Barris. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this is something that I'm very familiar with from my own business, but skirting this law with calling people subcontractors is nothing new. It's been going on for many, many years, even before this. But now, under this new gig economy, they make these people come in and they tell them, you're now a business owner. And they sell them with that story. You're a business owner now. You work for yourself. When technically they're not. They're not business owners. They're employees of these companies. Because they dictate when they work and when they don't work. And I see them out there. You got men and women. They're working 18, 20 hours a day. I mean, not even for other people, but it's not for their own safety. They shouldn't be out there that long. They get no benefits. They get nothing. And at the end of the day, they're paid a substandard wage. So you're working 20 hours a day and you're not even making a real wage that you should be making. Their vehicles have now, they went out and bought vehicles under the dream that, you're going to make all this money. And meanwhile, they're out there, they kill themselves. And now the vehicle is old and all broken down and they still owe a boatload of money on it. Well, all these gig companies are making more and more money. So again, this is not a new thing. It's always been a way to skirt the law and not pay taxes and not pay these people a living wage. And I know a lot of them that do this kind of work, and I see them. Then I see people sleeping in cars. Sleeping in cars. I don't know if you know, but New York has capped Uber and Lyft. So now they're all coming over here. That's why you see all the New York plates here, because New York has capped them. And other cities have done the same. So they're trying to go to the cities that have no cap. It's something maybe we should, maybe this state should look at doing too. But I agree with, wholeheartedly with this. And again, I'll support it, but it's been going on for years. And again, the big companies keep making more money and more money. If you get a chance, watch the series Super Pumped about Uber and how they take advantage of their employees. So again, I'll support this, and because as I say, these people they deserve to make a fair wage.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Rowe, and thank you for putting this on the agenda tonight. I have to say, advocating against H1234 is something I thought of as one of my priorities for this entire calendar year in our capacity as a city council, in my private life. To restate some of what's already been said, I think this constitutes one of the biggest assaults on workers' rights that, to my knowledge, that we have seen in years and years. It's an issue that it's hard for me to contemplate without getting emotional, because it is such an insult to the people of this Commonwealth to incite a campaign of, as Councilor Carviallo said, voting against the interests of our neighbors. It's an insult to the workers who perform these jobs, who do these gigs, which has become one of the backbones of our, modern local level economy. I don't think that these apps are going away anytime soon. I think the horse is out of the barn. And what these companies are trying to do through these ballot questions is to enshrine the chipping away of essential protections, protection from liability, fair wage, just and safe working conditions for all of these people who are doing the rides, delivering the food, often, to people who, they need that sort of mobility service in order to make their life work. So I'm glad for this city council to have the ability to advocate for this. And, as stated, this is a state issue, but it's also, of course, an issue on the most local level because we have gig workers in our community, and we have people who are on the consuming end of these companies in our city. And I think one of the other things that propositions like this do is they complicate, that question of how do we, as a city, as a constituency, have a relationship with these companies if, wrongdoing is going on. And so, if people know this is a quote unquote small business owner who's doing something wrong, who's blocking the sidewalk, who's, performing badly in our community. And they know they can't take it to the appropriate person, which would be the company. They know that if there's a finger to point, it's pointing at an individual who probably this is, they wouldn't be, doing this job if they had a better, more accessible option. So for so many reasons for protecting, generations long, hard won workers' rights, workers' justice, to make sure that we can have a proper working, accountable relationship with the companies that are doing business in our city. I think that this is a resolution that we need to pass, and that we need to follow that up with making sure that H1234 isn't allowed to distort worker relationships throughout our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Councilor Singh.
Thank you, President Morrell, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. Essentially, H1234 does, what it does is it makes a bad situation worse by enshrining it, as Councilor Collins said, into law. If you know, an Uber driver personally, many of my friends and family friends drive for Uber or Lyft, the working situations aren't great. And you'll know that, they have been tricked, as Councilor Caravilla have said, and the rhetoric that these big corporations are using doesn't reflect their actual lived reality on the ground. And by institutionalizing and by legalizing it, it makes a bad situation worse. If H1234 goes through, and I encourage people to read the body of the text of this resolution, drivers might make as little as $4.82 per hour, and those who qualify for a healthcare stipend may earn as little as $6.74 per hour. When we have people making those amounts, that also puts a strain on our city's resources, and it puts a strain on our society as well, because we'll have to do more to as a government to fill in this hole that big corporations are leaving for us. We also, we spend a lot of time talking both in the chambers and outside of the chambers about equity. But, H1234 and the ballot proposition, the proposed state ballot proposition would reverse all the good work that we are doing as a society when it comes to ensuring equity. This House bill would create an underclass of workers here in Massachusetts that is disproportionately Black or brown, and disproportionately immigrant, disproportionately working class, disproportionately veterans. And this is all things that we should be concerned about as a city, and things that affect us in our work as a city council. And so I urge everyone to do your research on this issue, to read this resolution, and not to be tricked by the big corporations that are running ads on TV and on YouTube that you see all the time. And I thank President Morrell for putting this on the agenda, because it's just so important that we address this.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Councilor Knight.
Madam President, thank you very much. This has been a topic of much debate, and as evident by future Governor Healy's lawsuit, also legal proceedings. And it's really the age-old argument of, is this an employee or a contractor? And, when I think about this, I think about it in the simplest terms, right? I mean, I've called Lyft before a bunch of times. I've called Uber a bunch of times. I've never called Joe the driver. I've called Uber, and Uber has sent me a driver, right? So, it's really employee misclassification, in my opinion. Uber, Lyft, these rideshare hailing companies, they have the control, the direction of the employee, and anything the employee does is really in the furtherance of Uber and Lyft's name, right? Is in their interest, is in furtherance of the employer's interest. That's the three-pronged test to determine whether or not you're a counselor or an employee. I'm sorry, contractor or an employee. So, when you look at what's going on, it's clear that these companies are taking advantage of workers. They're doing it through, like Councilor Caviello said, vehicle leasing programs and financial lending programs that are making these individuals, quite frankly, financially bound to these organizations. So if they wanted to leave, they wouldn't even be able to. So when you look at this and you sit back and you say, what's right is right, what's right is right. The way that they're classifying people, the amount of money that they're putting into this case, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it just shows you there's something wrong. I haven't seen this since what was the last one where the right to repair, right? Millions and millions of dollars are going into this to fight something. Why? Because it's good for the working person. That's why. And what we're seeing, as Councilor Collins said, is this is the first step in an effort to eliminate workers' rights and workers' benefits so that big business doesn't have to be on the hook for these liabilities. And so that individuals are going to be tasked with the responsibility of planning for their own retirement, their own future, because they're not paying into Social Security, because they're not paying into healthcare. And at the end of the run, we're going to see a situation where we have a lot of people that are going to need more from government. So this is actually a policy, I think, that's going to make sense because it's going to protect us economically. It's going to protect our neighbors. It's going to protect the residents of this community. And it's going to prevent big business from taking advantage of the little guy. So I support this wholeheartedly, and I thank the council for putting it on the agenda this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you. Madam President, we talked about, all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, these men and women are working 20 hours a week. No one cares about their safety, the safety of the people around them, the safety of the people in these cars. And they get into an accident. What happens? They get fired. And so that's the loyalty that these companies give them. And again, safety should be their number one issue. These people shouldn't be out there working. You shouldn't be in the vehicle 18, 20 hours and sleeping in your car. Again, because now you're putting yourself at risk, your passenger at risk, and the people all around you. And I said, and the reward is they owe thousands of dollars in taxes because no taxes have been withheld. So at the end of the year, again, they say these people, they're not making a lot of money. They're struggling to save for their families. And now, April 15th come, no one's withheld any taxes on you. Now you owe all this money. Or if they get into an accident, you're fired. So that's, again, these companies that just they care nothing about the employees at all.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion? Anyone? Zoom who'd like to speak on the motion of Councilor Knight, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-361 offered by Councilor Carviallo. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council have a representative from Eversource attend the next city council meeting to give the council an update on their ongoing project on Mystic Avenue and Winthrop Street. Be it further resolved that the city engineer and DPW also be in attendance. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Eversource is this is like herpes. It's a gift that keeps on giving. And it never goes away. People are asking, where are we on this project? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows where we are anymore. They're there, they're not there. I think we need an update on where this project is going, how much longer it's going to be. Again, and the reason I like to have the city engineer, not only to be involved with this here, but before we pave Winthrop Street and all these streets again, are there any other projects that are going to be done after we're paving? Because there's nothing worse than seeing a brand new paved street and a month later we're up there digging it up because a pipe should have gone in there before. So if the engineer will come in and coordinate with the gas company, let any other water, all these other people that are looking to do projects down there, let's do it now, before the road is paved, and then we dig it up a couple of months later. That's probably the worst, that aggravates me to the worst end. Just, there's no coordination. So, if you could, reach out to them and have the DPW here and say, and someone from Eversource, we haven't had a conversation with them in, I think, the longest time. So let's see where we are and see how much longer this project's gonna keep on going.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilor Carviallo. Further discussion?
Madam President, point of information, if I may, or actually a question. I recall getting a correspondence from the administration at some point saying that they stopped the construction on the Eversource project because they wanted to make sure that the condensate shell was accessible for the summer.
No, I think the project slowed down because we were short of policemen to cover the
No,
details.
I'm
That was
talking
one of
in
the
the last
issues.
2 months. I think we got something from maybe Mr. Schmurdy. I'm just trying to look it up.
I have asked the city engineer if they have any updates on timing, and it's obviously, that's not them, it's
Yeah.
Eversource hasn't given them information. I've asked them, a month, 2 months ago, because we're in high construction season and
Yeah.
nothing's happening.
And nothing, they started doing a little bit of work down by the Rotary,
Yeah.
the last few days. I don't know what they're doing there. But again, it's like, there's still holes that have to be, dug, they haven't even got to yet. So again, like I say, where are we and, how much?
The point of information, I know we did have, I had a few calls about the South Street intersection and the work that was being done by Eversource overnight because I believe the chief had decided that due to safety concerns of that intersection, they needed to do it overnight. So they haven't stopped the process. I think they're sort of working backwards now. That's what it seems like to me. So, but again, it'd be nice. And this is where when we first sat down with Eversource, when they came to talk to us, one of the biggest things I kept saying, and I think all of us have said, having a representative paid for by Eversource or by the utility companies to be the clerk of the works. We can't expect our city engineer to be the person that is sitting there making sure that they're held accountable, because it's not feasible. But at the same time, this is something we're lacking in our community. Other communities have the clerks of the works that make sure that all these jobs are being, all the neighbors in the areas are being informed, making sure that, the preparation isn't hindering traffic, that the cleanup is done satisfactory, so constituents aren't left with concerns and issues after they leave. So again, this is we're going to keep coming across this until we have someone with boots on the ground there that's making sure that they're responding back to the city engineer or DPW director in some communities or the mayor's office. So this is definitely an issue. I think we've lost communication again with Eversource. They get to a certain point and then they forget that they have to report and keep people informed. And that's not good business. So again, utilities shine again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Any luck, Councilor Knight?
I got nothing.
Yeah, I don't remember getting that.
I did a quick search. I couldn't find it. Vice President Barris.
I couldn't find it either, but I do recall something coming across somewhere about, I don't know if it was the Eversource project, but there was work to be done, I think in the parking lot.
That was MWRA.
MWR.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Yes, that's it. I'll just add this to Councilor Scarpelli's point. The Department of Public Utilities, I mean, it's another example of a public entity that's just completely unaccountable to the public. So maybe if his divine prophecy is true, Governor Healy will address that.
They put the PU in the DPU, don't they?
The PU and DPU, I like that, Councilor Knight.
Any further discussion? On the motion of Councilor Carviallo, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, the motion passes. 22-362, offered by Councilor Sang. Whereas the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Shurtleff versus City of Boston creates important implications for municipalities and public entities with regards to flag raising practices and policies. And whereas the city of Medford has been advised to examine existing practices and policies regarding flag raising to ensure compliance with the First Amendment, and to also consider examining their formal or informal policies and practices regarding display of banners, flags, message boards, and other signage on and use of public buildings and property. Be it resolved that the city administration provide a report to the city council on its current practices and policies regarding flag raising and other displays which may be affected by the short-lived decision, especially with further regard to requests from private or non-governmental groups/individuals. And be it further resolved that the city administration also provide its plan to ensure that our policies comply with the short-lived decision, including any updates to policies and practices. Counselor Singh.
Thank you, President Morrell. Essentially, the U.S. Supreme Court decided a few weeks ago in a case called Shurtleff v. City of Boston that the city has to be careful when it comes to approving or denying what flags can go up on government property. Essentially, the most important lessons for us is that we either have to have a stated policy where we say that our flagpoles and our places for banners on city property constitute governmental speech, or we just have to allow everyone to essentially be able to apply and use those platforms for speech. A lot of this has to be done through our law department, our legal department. They'll have to be the ones looking at the policies, but I think it would be good for our city council to be updated and to be able to have a voice in terms of what policies are being developed in response to the short-lived decision. And so this is just a simple resolution asking the city administration to give us an update as to what it's doing in this case before we get into any legal trouble. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Vice President Bears, then Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't know if folks remember, but prior to in 2020, in summer of 2020, I had put a resolution on the agenda around putting up a banner on the front of City Hall, and went into a pretty extensive resolution legal diatribe on the case law behind the government speech doctrine. And this is about putting up a Black Lives Matter banner on City Hall. And at the time, the district court had ruled that the city of Boston, basically the Supreme Court has overruled the Court of Appeals and the district court since then. But what's very clear from the case is that what existed and was true in 2020 is true now, which is that as long as the city has a policy, or I may say an ordinance, that clearly defines how, government entities, the city council or the mayor, can use government buildings or flagpoles or places of displaying any sort of banner or message. As long as there's a clear policy as to how that can be used, then that is completely allowable. And I think I agree with Councilor Singh. What we ran into in 2020 was that we didn't have a policy. It was willy-nilly. And I believe in 2020, we passed a resolution that asked what the policy was. And I don't believe we ever received a response from the city administration on that. And I've had it on my list for a couple of years now that maybe we should write an ordinance. And if we're not going to have a policy, then maybe we have to take it into our hands to protect ourselves in the future. So I'd love to get a response to this resolution and see if a policy has since been implemented. I don't think it behooves the city to have a policy that any private entity can put up any message they want on a public building. I think that's incredibly dangerous. But I certainly don't think that having a very clear policy about the government itself putting up messages should be an issue. And I certainly don't think the excuse should be made, as excuse was made by the mayoral administration in 2020, that if we put one thing up, we have to put anything up. Well, no, if the government wants to put something up, they can put up what they want. And the Supreme Court just made it very clear that as long as we have a clear policy, we don't have to let anyone put up whatever they want. So I am going to thank the Supreme Court, which I very rarely do with the Supreme Court, for making it very clear what our legal standing is when it comes to government speech in public buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. I think when we were coming in the building tonight, we saw a new flagpole being put up. So I'm assuming that'll coincide with some of the stuff here, because we were in violation, we were taking, the POW flag down, putting up other flags, even on a temporary basis, which was a violation of the law. So, I'm assuming that the new flagpole that's up there, well, you'll see it when you walk out the door, will, address some of these issues.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell, and thank you, Counselor Singh, for elevating this issue. I think that this decision really provides an opportunity for us to be proactive, for us to clarify the city's policy. I think I share some of my fellow counselors or opinions who've spoken. I think that it is not a great position for our city to put itself in, that any person can use our flagpole for any speech at all. I think that's a huge Pandora's box. But to take the first step first, I think that we absolutely need to see a clear policy or a clear response on what our current policy is. And if we don't have one, let's take this opportunity to make one, to close the door on legal troubles or more back and forth diatribes further down the line, whether that's through an administrative policy or through a clear ordinance that just spells out what our flagpole may be used for and by whom. So thank you, Counselor Singh.
Thank you, Counselor Collins. Any further discussion from the council? Counselor Singh.
Counselor Bears mentioned possibly wanting to add in an ordinance. Was that a amendment to this, which I'd be happy to support, but
Just that if we don't receive a response, I think it would be a prompt response that clearly states that we will have an administrative policy. Then to protect the city, it would probably be in the responsibility of this council to take our own action. So no amendment, just
great.
kind of a path forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. I do see Mr. Castagnetti with his hand up on Zoom. Mr. Castagnetti, name and address for the record, please.
Andrew Castanetti, Cushion Street, Medford, Mass. As Councilor Marks might comment, saying that this sounds like a slippery slope. Personally, I would think that only one thing should go on to that city property, the flag, and that would be the United States flag while we still have it, and also the prisoner of war, POW flag, and pretty much nothing else. Because if it wasn't for our veterans, I don't think any of us would be here tonight. If you allow one entity to put up whatever their mission is, then who knows where that may end and who makes these final decisions. We might end up with some group or entity that wants to worship Satan. And I think it's a bad idea to mix the government with people's missions. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Castagnetti. On the motion of Counselor Singh, seconded by Vice President Bears, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. 22-363, offered by Counselor Singh. Whereas the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, MBTA, has provided its bus network redesign proposal, which includes changes affecting Medford residents in all neighborhoods and is now soliciting feedback from the public. Be it resolved that the city administration inform residents of the proposed changes to bus service in Medford and the MBTA's feedback survey, which is available online in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, Haitian, Creole, Arabic, Vietnamese, and French. And be it further resolved that the Subcommittee on Climate, Sustainability, and Transportation meet to draft feedback for the MBTA on changes to bus service in Medford. Counselor Singh.
I'm sure many residents of the city have now seen the bus network redesign proposal, but I wanted to put this on the agenda so that we got the word out to even more people. These are redesigns that would really impact every single neighborhood in Medford. Every single bus route has been affected in Medford, and the service will change as well. I've seen residents who have both positive and negative impressions about this plan. I think it's important to say that this plan is not yet final, and that the MBTA is still soliciting feedback. And in the past, they haven't always been receptive to the feedback of the council and to residents. I know the previous council and the councilors here today have fought very hard for the 325 and 326 to be service for those two bus routes to be restored in Medford. Unfortunately, that's not in this plan. we just need to keep pushing, and it's the only thing that we can do right now. And so if our residents are informed of the proposed changes, if they're informed of the feedback survey and ways to participate in giving feedback, that will push us a step further in trying to get the bus service that we want and we deserve here in Medford. I also attached language in there about having the subcommittee on climate sustainability and transportation, having that committee meet the draft feedback, because I think feedback from a council will be is valuable and will be at a different platform than if we were just to give feedback separately. If there are other counselors who would want to participate in this meeting, I'd be happy to amend that language as well. But I think this is an opportunity for us to be proactive and to take action on something that will affect a lot of residents in the city. And I wanted to also let residents know that there will be in-person sessions to give feedback as well. It's also on the MBTA website, in the same place where you can find the feedback survey for the dates and times of those meetings. And those meetings will run until the end of July.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't know if Council Singh knows, but, the city of Medford is one of the, I think, 4th or 5th highest assessed communities for the T. And again, and I'm sure once the train station opens up at College Ave, our assessment is going to go up even higher. And even though that's an additional service, we've seen a cut in service over the last few years. And again, I think our opinion, seeing that, we pay such a high assessment, I think our opinion should mean something, even though we send these things to them, they don't respond or anything. But it should be, we should have a seat and maybe some type of table. I don't know if the city has a representative to the T, but we should have something there to say, because our assessment is ridiculous, the amount we pay. And we keep getting cutbacks and cutbacks. So again, I'll support this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Carviallo. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Councillor Singh, for putting this forward. This council's fought very hard for the 325, the 326, the 710. I was actually slightly glad to see that the new 100 route in here would include a lot of the previous 710, except for the part in the Heights, which is of course one of the most important. It's still the Heights, you have to walk to one side or the other to get transit access. I will say that I think the proposed T96 and T101 with 15-minute service is a great addition to the community, especially the T96 connecting the red, orange, and green lines with service every 15 minutes. But I do completely agree that there are some major gaps in here that need to be addressed. I very much doubt we're going to get the express bus service back. I know that nobody wants to hear that, but if you look at this redesign, it eliminated it everywhere. It's not just Medford, it's all the express buses are gone. And that has been an initiative of the Baker administration to privatize or otherwise eliminate express bus service, which we have seen impact our community. I think it makes a lot of sense for this council to serve. I hear you on the climate transportation subcommittee. If you're amenable, I think a committee of the whole might be a better venue. There's a lot of residents clamoring for a voice in this. If you look at the way that this was rolled out, there is kind of a specific PDF for Medford. It's talking about impacts specific to Medford. So I think we could host a committee of the whole, have residents issue their opinions, have counselors issue theirs, and then submit that as a public comment as you intended to the MBTA. So if you wouldn't mind amending that to committee of the whole. And I would also just add, for the benefit of the public, in addition to the in-person comment sessions, there's a virtual public meeting Wednesday, June 8th at 6 p.m. for the Mystic River and North Shore region for the bus network redesign. So that should be focusing a little bit more on our area as well. And I know that there's a lot of residents who are concerned and some residents who are happy, and I'm hoping that we can keep the good and maybe ameliorate some of the bad as we work through this process with the T. I think they're not going to start changing routes until next year, and this whole process does go through 2028. So I am, while skeptical based on past experience, I am slightly hopeful that the extended time frame means that some adaptation and adjustment may be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Counselor Sang, for bringing this forward. I think that as the former chair of the Transportation Subcommittee, it was daunting to get their assistance. But one thing I realized that I would, if we can add, is maybe using some influence with someone in this room that maybe could bring someone from the Transportation Department to our meeting and actually have a voice there that can answer some questions. So I think that maybe adding an invitation for someone from Transportation to come in and help with that. So I don't know who that person can be, but maybe if we can ask our clerk Hurtubise if he can reach out to maybe any of his former colleagues, if we know of any, to really just to push. I know you worked very closely with me, Mr. Hurtubise and Clerk Hurtubise, to get some initiatives pushed forward in the last few years because of your knowledge of some people in the DOT, and hopefully that might help to get someone to our meeting. So I would second the motion to make this into a committee of the whole meeting, and then I would also add someone from the MBTA to be there as a representative. So,
Mr. Clerk.
Counselor Scarpelli, do you want somebody from Mass DOT and the T, or one or the other, or both, or?
in your vast experience, I think you maybe adding your guidance. I think that in the past, you've led me to bring in all the stakeholders. So, you know, the stakeholders that are really in charge of making these decisions.
Okay.
I think I leave that to you. If you can guide us a bit, I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Done.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just, Madam President, if in fact we are going to be sending a letter, I'd ask that letter come out of the committee of the whole, not the subcommittee. That's the only question I have, but I support them out.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Counselor Sang?
Should I formally motion for this?
As long as you accept that, you don't have to formally motion.
Okay.
Okay, great. So on the motion of Counselor Sang, as amended by Vice President Bears and Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli, all those in favor?
All right.
All those opposed? The motion passes. 22-364, offered by Counselor Carviallo. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council have Eversource repaint the crosswalks and bike lanes on South Street in the interest of public safety.
Thank you, Madam President. For those of us who drive up and down South Street right now, you'll see that all the bike lanes are pretty much wiped away, and the crosswalks are pretty much all gone, along with, some repair work that's been done over there. I think that, I'd like to have Eversource go by there and repaint crosswalks and the bike lane for the interest of public safety. But before they repaint the crosswalks, a couple of neighbors have reached out about maybe repositioning those. So maybe if Todd Blake could maybe reach out to some neighbors and find out what their issues with the crosswalks are, it would be greatly appreciated. And if I could further amend this to from Medford Square right down to the Winthrop Street Rotary, almost every crosswalk in front of the school, library, and everywhere is pretty much gone. If we can further amend that to, at some point, have those crosswalks in Medford Square all the way down to the Rotary at Route 60 repainted in the interest of public safety also.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yeah. Gone, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's gone, yeah. Yeah, yeah, the bus lane was gone, which is a waste of paint.
Watercolors.
There's a certain council that used to promote certain.
Thermoplastic.
I got 4 words for you.
Thermoplastic
sidewalks.
Yeah, thermoplastic. So whatever we can.
So they did do on High Street, the crosswalks out thermoplastic. I'll give them that. But the green paint that they painted on High Street is gone now.
Move approval.
On the motion of Counselor Carviallo.
As
Vice President
amended.
Bears. Sorry. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. I realize this now. Could we, well, I don't know, I don't know what to do about this, but I think maybe we should actually have Mr. Blake down along with Mr. McGivern and Mr. Wartella when Eversource comes. I know we've already passed that.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll throw it on as a B paper to this one to invite Todd Blake as well, to request that Todd Blake join us, because maybe he could give us an update on all of the painting and whether or not it was temporary or permanent or whatever. So B paper to invite Todd Blake to come down to discuss the Eversource project.
Do I have a second on that? Second. Scarpelli. Great, we'll take the B paper first. So on the motion of Vice President Bears to invite Todd Blake to come down to discuss the status of the Eversource project, second by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
All right,
All those opposed? B paper passes. And on the main motion from Councilor Carviallo, as amended by Councilor Carviallo, seconded by
second.
Vice President Bears. All those in favor?
All right.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Public participation. We do not have anyone in the chambers tonight, so is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak for public participation? Please raise your hand. I do see Mr. Castagnetti. Mr. Castagnetti, name and address for the record, please.
Same address, Andrew Castanetti. What's the population of Medford, by the way?
Pushing 60,000.
It's give or take 60,000.
And how many people did you say is in the audience?
We don't have the Nelson
Zero.
ratings, Mr. Castagnetti. We're not aware how many people.
Thank you for the answer. Thank you very much.
You don't
Have a
that
wonderful
information.
evening.
In terms of the in-person audience, it
cool.
is currently zero, Mr. Castanetti.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your input. Good night.
Mr. Castagnetti. Okay, all right, unless there's anyone else who would like to speak for public participation, moving on, I did get a note from the clerk that paper 20-600, we could probably move up unfinished business if anyone would like to motion to take it up. It is the National Grid grant of location. They need to resubmit, so we can just receive and place and file if someone would motion to. On the motion of Councilor Knight to take 20-600 off the table and receive and place on file, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. That is the end of our agenda. On the motion of Councilor Knight to adjourn, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. And just a reminder that tomorrow night's committee of the whole has been canceled as we addressed it at tonight's committee of the whole.